Hi, everyone. This is Alexander Fernandez with Video Games Real Talk. Stefan's got the day off, but I have an amazing guest for us today. A very good friend of ours, and I think what is about to become a legendary developer, Jeff Skalski. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing good, Alexander. How's it going?
It is good. It is a beautiful, fine 6 a.m. morning here on the West Coast. It's so beautiful. I cannot see outside. I'm up before the sun.
I should have said good morning, sunshine, to open this up.
I think so. I actually would have been very appropriate. I think we would have sat down and I would have, we could have clapped hands and basically followed the yellow brick road. You see that?
Exactly.
There you go. There.
Nice. Appreciate the plug.
Well, what can I say? We're gonna get into this, and this is really gonna be an adventure. I think I'm looking forward to it. So, for all of our listeners out there, please introduce yourself and tell us who you are, what you do, and what's going on.
Sure. So, my name's Jeff Skalski. I am the Chief Operating Officer and Executive Producer at a new studio we just founded called Yellow Brick Games out here in beautiful, cold, up north Quebec City, Quebec, in Canada. Yeah, it's been thinking back to it, like how long I've been making games for, and it's already hitting 24 years. But more importantly than that, Alexander, happy and congratulations on your 20th year at Streamline. It's pretty incredible to see the journey over the last 2 decades.
Oh man, I appreciate that. And you know what? Thank you for yeah, you just reminded me. It's like when we first met, I actually had curly hair, so it was
Yeah,
an amazing. It was, I mean, remember I was so young back then, and actually, congratulations on your 24 years in video games. I mean, I was when I was putting up together the questions, I sat down. I'm like, God, I know Jeff's been in the business for a long time, and as long as I've been in this business, and if not longer. So, has it been 24 years making games for you?
yeah, it's well over half my life.
I mean,
So yeah,
wow.
it's pretty insane. I started. I got really lucky very early. I started right out of my freshman year in college, so with an internship. Start off just as a summer internship at Micropose, so like an old school PC shop. And guys who were back then were working on the gunship M1 tank, obviously well known for Civilization, and so that was a blast. And I went into there, yeah, my freshman year out of college. I was attending Maryland Institute College of Art. My major was kind of focused in illustration, and I went in absolutely with zero knowledge of knowing how to model or anything, but I was really into games. I was really into like building things. I was kind of doing stuff on the side. And lucky enough, the art director at the time, Murray Taylor, took a gamble on me for the internship, and I honestly haven't looked back since. That summer internship turned into a full blown career. And I was really lucky to have some great mentors early on.
So, this is interesting because I'm always fascinated about 24 years ago. So we're talking like the late 90s.
Yeah,
This is like what, 97, 98?
yeah. I started in '97, May of '97. So yeah, we're just coming up on 20.
Oh my God, man. So, you got it to 8K. So we got some young listeners out there. I mean, I would dare say we got people that were born in 2000 listening to us.
Oh,
So
I'm sure.
we, yeah. So we're talking about 97 here. What was it like? I mean, what was the industry and the folks you're working with, which is really generation one? I
Yeah,
would even maybe say, yeah, if we want to stretch it, okay, maybe generation 1.5. But
yeah,
what were they like? What was going on at that moment?
yeah. I was, when I landed at Micropose, I was definitely the young kid. There were people that I were working with who were the age of my parents at the time. We had some, ex guys from Avalon Hill. Again, Gunship M1 Tank, Falcon. These games that I loved growing up. I literally would save all my money over the summer just to build my own PC rig to run these games. And when I found out, I was living in Maryland, Columbia, Maryland at the time. So it's like halfway point between Baltimore and Washington D.C. And I remember looking at the back of the box and on the gunship box specifically, and going, "Holy hell! These people are located in Hunt Valley, Maryland. This is just north of Baltimore." So it became an objective of mine that I really got to find a way to work at this company. I mean, late '97. Oh my god. I was one of the first projects I worked on was I was at the time kind of jumping between a couple of different projects. I was working on Civ 2, doing some rendering for the Civlopedia. I was working on Klingon Honor Guard, which was a crazy game we did with Paramount Pictures on the Star Trek license, and that was working with the Unreal Engine, which back at that time, Epic was not even located in North Carolina; they were located in Rockville, Maryland. Uh, and we weren't even Unreal at that time was not even a number. It was like I think the first version I used was like 0.08b or something, and there wasn't many of us who licensed them. We were one of the first licensors of Unreal. So yeah, that was just an incredible experience, uh, getting to learn so much stuff, and I was so grateful that they gave me the shot, to do it, because I really went in there coming out of my freshman year with no real knowledge of modeling. But I knew computers because I had a passion for them because I was building my own rigs, and of course was a consumer. I remember going in with my portfolio, and it was a mess. It was I went to a fine art school, so I had these big graphic drawings, several feet by several feet, where I would illustrate things in graphite, and then I was writing code behind it, collapsing things, and just doing a lot of weird stuff. But yeah, it was wild. It was a wild time. I couldn't be more thankful for the time that I started in the industry to see where it's changed and matured to the point that it's at now.
You know what I love about your story is the fact that you have this fine arts background, and I remember this has been one of the things that's always struck me about you. You're super talented, man. Your art's awesome, and
Oh,
it's something
thanks.
where no, honestly, man. I mean, I love watching how you draw. When you draw those pictures, especially when you draw them for your kids and then you post them. I love watching that. I think it's the cutest and yet at the same time most real thing about this industry. It's like you have the actual talent and the fine arts background, the actual and to the point, Unreal point 8, you don't know how to 3D model at the time. You're studying how to be an artist, an actual artist, and then you can take your skills and apply it into the video game space that is nascent and starting to grow. And by the way, Falcon 4 was just, the Falcon series, dude. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm totally with you. And you're talking this, I'm tripping. I'm like at this store called Babbage's in my mind,
yeah.
eyeing
Remember,
it.
never forget those manuals. Those were real
Yeah,
manuals
exactly.
back then. People nowadays be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" That thing was like a huge book. Yeah, but
Exactly. It
that's
was.
just the way it was.
I mean, seriously, I swear, if I read the book, I could have flown the plane. I swear to you, it was like I think they just copied the actual manual and just threw it into the box. Say, here you go, kid, learn how to fly. It's, I don't know, it was like every kid's fantasy. But I mean, so I gotta want to unpack it a little bit because you're sitting here, you're you're basically what like for senior freshman 20, 19, 20 years old, maybe 21.
Yeah, I was 18.
Oh my God.
I
So
was
you're
eight.
okay.
I was 18. I actually graduated from high school because I have a late birthday. I was born in October, so yeah, I
Yeah.
was I was 18. I mean,
Oh my
and
God.
it's kind of funny, and maybe now it's okay to say this. It's been long enough, but I was working on Klingon Honor Guard, which was an incredible game to
Yeah, that
work
game was
on, and
cool.
and I
Yeah.
went from building props, doing some character animation to eventually, doing a lot of level design. And back then, when you were designing levels, you were also lighting your levels, you were scripting your levels, and you were lucky if you had a dedicated artist to build your texture library with. Otherwise, you were
Exactly.
painting your own textures at the same time. So you were doing everything back then.
Yeah. You were
And
already on one.
and on our little, the P90s with the little turbo boost button, and back then you would have to rebake. I remember rebaking my lighting, and I would have to do that prior to going to lunch because it would take sometimes upwards of 45, 50 minutes just to rebake the lighting. What fun fact? This is how I learned how to juggle because I was sitting there waiting for my lighting to rebake, and I was like, I need to do something. So I was always that's how I learned how to juggle. But yeah, it honestly was a crazy time, but it was super cool because things were moving so fast, um, and we were trying so many things, and coming off of Klingon Honor Guard. Because it was with Paramount Pictures, and they were like, "Okay, we want to do a nice release party." So, I mean, I was living the time of my life because they were like, "Hey, we need to put you on a plane. We're sending the whole team to Vegas. You're going to be at the Star Trek experience. We're flying in all the press." We were at was it Quarks Bar? I'm trying to remember the name of the bar at the Star Trek Experience,
Yeah, I
and
think it was Sports Bar.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Star Trek
so,
Experience. I mean,
yeah.
amazing.
So at that time, there I am, 18, turning no 19. I just turned 19 years old, uh, and I'm definitely going to admit I might have been drinking there because no one thought I would be possibly that young. Doing interviews with Washington Post, and we had a multiplayer set up for different death matches, and we were showing off the single player campaign and everything. It was a blast. Honestly, it was a great time, and yeah, we had a lot of fun. It was a great way to start in the industry for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and it's Las Vegas. I mean, many things have happened here where I'm sure IDs weren't checked, so it's all good.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just part of the
it's all
lore,
good.
and Cork's Bar. I mean, it is space. Anything can go over there, so we're good. So you have this job, and then this is kind of a storied career, man. I mean, take me through this.
I ended up leaving Micropose with a couple other coworkers, and we actually ended up starting a company. It was actually the first company that I ended up founding with 10 other people, and we called it XI Interactive. Um, and we that venture didn't last more than a year, to be quite honest. Things didn't work out, but maybe that's for another another time. We could talk about that. But I learned quite a bit from that, which made me much more prepared for what I'm doing now with the new company. Um, that I'm a part of. But so I did that. Yeah, I did that for about a year, and it didn't work out. And then I ended up, I had a bit of a pause. I wasn't going back to Microprose. I wasn't. I didn't really find anything that was really grabbing me in the Hunt Valley area, and I didn't really necessarily want to move at the time. My girlfriend was pretty well settled where she was at, which Fulia, who's now my wife, but at the time we were dating. Um, but I found I had a friend mention to me, an ex-colleague from Microprose mentioned to me about this company called Mythic Entertainment, and actually I was aware of them because I was playing the game that they just launched called Dark Age of Camelot, which for those listeners out there who might remember was you know this concept of a MMORPG where it was realm versus realm, or RVR kind of experience, where you had the PvP set up between three different factions: Albion, Midgard, and Hibernia. Um, and super cool, definitely revolutionary for its time, and I was enjoying it. And then I was like, oh wait, these guys, they're based in Virginia. I was like, you know what, I want to go down there and chat with them. I went down for an interview as a at the level artist, or actually as a 3D artist. I don't think they called it level artist. It was just a 3D artist. Did the interview, and I'll be quite honest, Alexander, I walked out of the interview going, I don't think they like my portfolio. I really didn't feel the work that I showed them that I had done over the last couple of years kind of connected or resonated with them. I had a lot of like sci-fi work because I worked on XCOM, I worked on Klingon Honor Guard. On my spare time, I was really into Warhammer 40K, so I had a lot of models and things that I was building inspired from the Games Workshop IP. And then I went down there, and obviously Dark Age of Camelot is kind of this medieval themed fantasy. So I literally, when I came home, I was like, I don't think they're gonna give me a call back. So I went ahead and I just modeled something that I thought could fit in Dark Age of Camelot, and I sent it literally the next day. I sketched it up, modeled it, textured it, sent it down. I built it to kind of to the spec that I thought the game was, maybe just a little bit higher, but within reach. And then I got the job. And the art director at the time then, Lance Robertson, told me it's because I did that. That's what convinced them. They were like, all right, let's give this guy a shot. So, and then the rest is history from there. I mean, Dark Age, I was lucky to work on that game for many years. Then ended up working on Warhammer Online with Games Workshop, which was another dream come true because I was already a huge fan of Games Workshop. I've been painting minis since I was 10 or 12. Um, and then went on to work on with the Ultima Online franchise for a while. So was super lucky. And I think the big thing for me from my days at Mythic, what I still hold with me today, is it was the first time I was really working on games as a service before anyone used to say the words or the phrase games as a service. I was building something and it was being pushed live, and I was seeing feedback from the players immediately. And this was super. exciting. Sometimes you get feedback. Of course you weren't going to like. There's always the good side and the bad side of the internet, uh, but it was so great to see people actually experience your work right away, and especially when they enjoyed it so much. Back then, I think one of the first things I worked for Dark Age of Camelot was all the housing. Um, and players love housing, building and designing their furniture and everything. So this was super cool to see people love this content and use it and talk about it. So yeah, good times at Mythic. Had a lot of good times. I was at Mythic all the way through the buyout of EA. We got acquired, and that studio stayed open all the way up to 2014. And then in 2014 is when I made the switch to Ubisoft, which led me up to Canada.
You're part of the story of how you got the job at Mythic is I think it's extremely important for people that are listening out there to realize that even after you went in, you did the presentation, you come out feeling like, oh yeah, I don't think that hit. You literally go home, put your own time and effort, your own volition into saying, I'm going to create something and I'm going to show these guys what I can do. What drove you to that? I mean, that's tenacity. I mean, that's straight up grit to do that. Why? Why do that?
I think the thing for me, I get asked a lot of times when if I give a speech at a college or meeting students, which I love doing. Um, a lot of times they tell the big question I get is, how did you get in the industry? What are you doing? What courses should I take? Which school should I go to? Uh, and what I try to tell everybody is like, look, the school you go to, okay, the classes you're going to take, okay, you have access to maybe tools that you don't have at home, but okay, as you already know nowadays, if you got a PC at home, you can pretty much have access to almost incredible tools to build almost anything. Um, and what I always tell them is like, okay, go to school, start to build a network. That's important because these people are going to go off to do many amazing things in the future, and that's important. And those things can pay off for you. Maybe not now, but they could pay off for you in 10 or 20 years from now. But what you're doing in a classroom is one thing, but what you're doing outside of the classroom is almost just as important, if not more, in my opinion. And it's the kind of having that hunger and drive. You really got to enjoy what you're doing. I tell people I've been lucky for the last 20 plus years that I've been looking forward to Mondays because I love the people that I work with. I love the stuff that I'm learning. I love how I'm being challenged. Um, so this for me fuels me each day. So it's like find that, and you're never going to work another day in your life. So it's not that it's not going to be easy or not going to be stressful. Of course it's going to be, but at least you're doing it because you love doing it, and ideally it's something that you're good at. Uh, so find that path and hold on to it. So when I went down there and I felt the people that I met at Mythic were very cool people, and I loved the game that they had built. Uh, and I think at that time it was like 52 miles from where I lived. It was definitely a bit of a commute to go around the DC Beltway to get to Fairfax, Virginia, but from Baltimore. But I just felt like I could be there. Like I just knew that I needed to be there, and I saw that there was a disconnect between the work that I was showing versus what they probably would want me to do. So for me, it was just a no brainer. Okay, I can do better. And so I just buckled down and did the work and sent it in. Uh, Ironic enough, I was inspired by what I ended up building. I mean, it was a building like a wizard's tower, which for me, because I was so into Games Workshop at the time, I was kind of influenced by Games Workshop. So I ended up building something in the line and a homage to something that would fit in Warhammer Fantasy. Needless that I know, I eventually would be an art director and a producer of Warhammer Online, which was based on Warhammer Fantasy, that was developed at Mythic with Games Workshop. So in a way, it was kind of, I think sometimes things are just meant to be, and when those doors are there, you just need to walk through them.
Yeah, and that's the point there. I think that is it's really the way that you've just said that is absolutely true. The reality is you just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who you're going to with, where they're going to end up, or the fact that the one thing you did to get a job at Mythic ends up becoming that kind of circle is now complete moment for you, where you end up on Warhammer being an art director, and you're like, oh wait, here I am. In your career, let me ask, if what do you think is the most important trait for being part of a team? What is it that you would say, like, you know, this is what I've seen, this is what you really got to do, that you could share with us?
I think for me, I would start. There's a lot of things, but the most important, I would say, trust and ability to work with others. These would probably be the top of my list because, again, you know this too with your background. It's we're working in a creative medium, and you're working whether you're a designer, an engineer, an artist. We're all very creative driven people. And so pulling these people together and just being, okay, let's create something together, you know, literally maximizes the strength and the skill set of this group. It requires a tremendous amount of trust, tremendous amount, even patience sometimes, um, and a tremendous amount of communication, quite honestly, to make it work, to make it work efficiently. A lot of times, uh, every game that ships, regardless of its Metacritic, it's a miracle that that game ships. Uh, it's so many obstacles to get a game to release. So it's literally something to celebrate every time, regardless of the quality of the game. It's hard to ship stuff. Um, but yeah, it's a journey, and so for me, I try to tell people those results at the end of it, what you ship is super important, but how did you even get there? Like that's just as critical. So how you work with people, the soft skills, I think sometimes get overlooked because those soft skills are hard to teach. In fact, I don't even know if they really are teachable. I think you can make people aware, but to really change people how they communicate, sometimes it's just core to their personality, and that's super challenging to do. Whereas hard skills, they can be taught. If the person has the capabilities, it definitely can be taught. So yeah, it comes down to trust and ability to work with others. I would put those at the top.
That is very well said. And actually, we've come to that point where we're about to break into the Canada days. But I there was something else. You went to another place before Canada. You went to the Far East.
I did go to the Far East. So I was at Mythic, and Mythic eventually was acquired by Electronic Arts while we were working on Warhammer Online, and I think that acquisition was in 2007. So if I remember right, uh, and I'll be honest, I loved my time at Electronic Arts. Again, it was just I met a whole nother group of people, amazing people, and I learned so much more, literally about the business. Like I learned how to read a P&L, and it was just again because EA was compared to Mythic. I mean, Mythic, we were our small own little entity of a couple hundred employees, and then you start working for a company such as Electronic Arts, it's one of the heavy hitters, and it's like they got 10,000 plus employees. So it was a whole new playing field. And while we were working on Warhammer Online, and now that we had the backing of Electronic Arts, we soon realized, okay, well, we need more resources to pull off what we want to do. Um, and there was a lot of things kind of floating around, and eventually it was like, okay, well, we have this EA studio in Shanghai. We're trying to grow this kind of outsourcing arm for EA. Do you want to go over? At the time, I was an art director, and they're like, "Do you want to go over there and be an art director and help kind of grow a team of artists for Warhammer Online, just to kind of help jumpstart this initiative for EA Shanghai?" And at the time, I think my creative director, Paul Barnett, told me, he's like, you must take this. Like, he's like, you have to say yes. This is going to be a great thing for you. And at first, to be honest, I was kind of leaning against it. My wife we just had our first child. She was only at the time maybe 6 months old. I was like, do I really want to go all the way to Shanghai? I've never even been to China. Um, I didn't know Mandarin. There's a lot of things going on. Uh, but I ended up taking it, and I'm so happy I took that. I still thank Paul if he's listening for really kind of giving me the kick to do it. Um, I went to China as an art director. I came back as a producer. I came back completely changed. I realized I enjoyed working with people on a completely new level. I think at the time, the GM there, Jason Chen, he had another master plan brewing where you have to come in there to build an art team and train an art team and help guide the vision for what we needed to get done for Warhammer Online. Uh, but at the same time, he needed help building the studio and hiring the right leadership uh, and officers to give him the right support structure. So me, him, and another very senior technical art director at the time, Leon. Uh, we both, Leon came from LA and I came from Washington D.C. and we helped kind of build that with Jason. And that was a wild mandate. It was 6 months. I loved it. It was tough on my wife though, and my daughter. They were out wild with the public, and it's tough living in China when you don't speak much Mandarin. Um, and yeah, and this is back in 2008. So lots has changed in China since 2008. But no, it was a really cool adventure. Uh, and yeah, I came back to DC to Virginia with Mythic. And, I knew I wanted to be more than just an art director. I wanted to have more responsibilities and have more potential impact to work with more teams across multiple disciplines to build bigger, greater things. So there was a producer position open, and Mythic gave me a shot to do it, and I haven't looked back since then.
Do you think you would have ventured into being a producer had you not gone to China?
I don't know. I it, if I did, it would have been a lot later. Um, I honestly never thought about that as a career path for myself. I was so focused on staying on the track in the art field, in the art discipline. Uh, I didn't see myself. I was like, no, I'm going to be an art director. I'll continue to push on visual design and building great teams, but focused on solving all the complex art challenges that come along the way in production, and just pushing on that vision visually. Uh, and I was comfortable, and I was having a good time doing it. But then it's so funny. It's like I realized when I was in China and just seeing all the other things that are going on, it just opened my eyes to wow, there's just so much stuff that happens to make games happen, and I was enjoying it so much. I was like, wow. So every time I had a little bit, when I was at Micropose and I came in as an intern, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm doing all this work, I'm working, so much, having a blast, but you don't even realize just how much more stuff is going on around you in all the other areas of the game. And then every time I got a little bump to a lead artist or art director, my world kind of expanded. But when I went to China, it quadrupled. Um, and I'm having that even now today, like going from, you know, being a kind of like a senior producer at a big studio like Ubisoft, and now switching and kind of doing my own leap of faith and betting betting really on myself and the team that's around me and doing our own thing and starting our own company. It's just like a whole new world of things that I'm learning, but it's fun. I'm really enjoying it.
So I'm sitting here and I'm looking at your story from what you've just told us in the past half hour, and there's a theme that's emerging out of here that I really want to grab onto, and that's this theme of, well, why not just say yes, go for it, try. You don't, you're not going to lose anything by going. And just before we switch into you heading to Canada, how in the world did you convince your wife to go to China? I mean, I mean, like, this is straight up, man. I mean, this is China 2007, 2008, this China the China boom, it's growing. It's like the wild east. Like, it isn't China of today, which I think it's extremely important to let everyone out there understand, like, guys, like, the first time that I had ever gone to China in 2003, I was literally like the city was being built around you. Like, you have these animations of cities coming out of the ground. It was like literally like that. So, how do you convince Fulia to do it? I mean, what did you say?
Like we love experiencing other cultures. This is something Hopefully, the day when I retire is just we can endlessly travel for the rest of our years that we have together. But you know, my wife is she's Turkish, as you know, and being an American, but I my father was served in the U.S. Navy, so I traveled a lot of. I grew up pretty much around the Mediterranean my whole childhood, and then in other parts of the world. So the sense of adventure of going somewhere new that we hadn't been to, this was kind of attractive to us. But to be quite honest, there was so much we didn't know about China uh, yeah, that was shocking when we got there. So it was probably good that we didn't know certain things. But yeah, like you said, the timeline of 2000, this time of like late 2007 into 2008, this was before the Olympics. Uh, Pudong was literally being built right in front of us. That skyline. Uh, this before there was a. I remember when Best Buy came to China with a huge deal. This is before Toys R Us came to China. There was just a lot of there were tremendous amounts of things that changed. Literally felt like on a weekly basis while we were there. It was super hard on my wife. I remember when my boss at the time, Rob Denton from Mythic, was calling just to check up on me and see how things were going. My wife, I think, had my cell phone that day, and Rob called and Fulia picked up, and I was like, "How things are going?" My wife's like, "We got to come back, Rob. We need to come back." And this is like, he's like, "Oh, okay, you guys are coming back." But my wife was, yeah, I think she was done. It's super tough raising a kid in China. Just culturally, there's just a different perspective. There's certain barriers that are not that are just foreign for us coming from North America, and it was really tough. Whereas for me, it was not a big deal because I was in a studio developing games, training, and it was fine. Uh, but my wife was literally on the streets of Shanghai for those months, and it definitely took a toll. But uh, but we had a good time. We experienced a lot of great things. We saw a lot of great things in China, between Beijing and traveling around. It was definitely a great experience.
So you get back, you did your tour of duty. You come back
Hmm.
from the Far East. You're here back in the East Coast and Canada. Oh, Canada. How? Yeah, I mean, it's like you we. How do you end up in Canada, Jeff? I mean, I remember when you told me I'm in Canada. I'm like, what? And like,
Yeah,
yeah, man,
yeah.
how'd that
That
happen?
that was definitely not the plan. It was not the intention. When we got the word that EA was shutting down Mythic, um, of course, EA was trying to get everybody placed in other studios. They didn't want to lose the talent, uh, but there was no studios outside of maybe Bethesda. There was no real studios around us. And even going to work for Bethesda at the time, I would still had to move my house and everything. It was a move no matter what at that point. So, um, but I was still entertaining. Like I was thinking I was going to stay in EA, and I was looking at what other opportunities there were for me. Most of it on the West Coast, and I thought for sure I was going to end up moving to San Francisco, to work out of Redwood, the headquarters. But the I got a call. Actually, could rewind time a little bit. I actually got a call a year and a half prior to us shutting the Mythic studio down. So it was before I even knew that we were going to be shutting the studio down. And I had a friend, an ex-colleague of mine that I had met in a studio leadership accelerator program at Electronic Arts named Francois Pellon. And he was now a senior producer at Ubisoft out of the Quebec City studio. And he called me. He's like, "Hey, why don't you uh, come up here and work with us on the Assassin's Creed franchise?" And I declined. I said, "No, it's not going to happen. It's too cold in Quebec. My wife is Mediterranean. There's just no way. We'll get a divorce if we move to Quebec." And I didn't even bother entertaining getting on the plane to come up. And I was honestly, I was still very, very, very happy with the team and the people I was working with at Mythic, even though it was challenging times. I didn't want to leave. Um, but then, Mythic was shut down, and then I was like, okay, I'm entertaining going to San Francisco, and Francois called me again and said, hey, we're still working on the Assassin's Creed franchise. Why don't you come up? And then I said, you know what? Sure, we'll come up. And I came up for my initial interview. And to be quite honest, the thing that really convinced me to take it more seriously when I came for my interview was really two things. One was the talent of the studio. The people that I met at Ubisoft Quebec when I was interviewing, looking at what they were building. At the time, they were working on Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and I was blown away by this talent. I was just like, wow, it's crazy. I always say in the world of the game industry, there's probably at most 40, 40, maybe 50 teams, at most, who can build those AAA, or I'll call them, even, we now call them quadruple A games. There's not many. And I was like, wow, I'm in the presence of one of those teams that's forming right now. They were literally about to prove it. And I was excited by that. And wow, I can learn so much from this. And I felt I could offer a lot to the studio too. They were at this kind of pivoting point, coming off of doing the DLCs like Freedom Cry, and really showing that they could lead full production on a AAA franchise. Uh, so that was one element, and then the other element for me was they put me up in a hotel literally less than a block away from the studio. And when I came up for my interview, the studio at the time was based like in this area called Saint Roch, in kind of downtown Quebec. It was right in the summer, and it was during what they have this kind of summer music festival where they bring in all these huge headliners in, and they have 11 stages scattered across the city. It's like 100,000 people come into the city for this. Super cool event. But at the same time, there's also kind of an underground music scene that's happening in the city as well for people who don't want to pay for the I would call them overpriced tickets, because I think compared to what I'm used to spending in the States, it's a steal for what the tickets cost. But there's kind of an underground music scene going on, and I was just kind of walking around exploring the city, and I ended up running into somebody randomly, super friendly, when I was asking for directions. And then he's like, hey, well, I'm meeting up with some friends, and we're going to this underground music scene. Do you want to come? And I said, sure, why not? Anyways, that unplanned event, but I met a lot of like the local people of Quebec. uh, and I was so impressed with how friendly and kind they were. I was just like, okay, so the people here that I would work with seem amazing, and the people that I'm randomly meeting seem amazing, even though I'm in a French-speaking province and I speak zero French. Um, and then the charm of the city, I was really surprised. It has kind of a little bit of a European vibe, but you don't have to cross the Atlantic to experience it. So they kind of grew on me. And then I brought my wife back for my second visit, and she saw the similar things. And then we decided, you know what, let's go for it. Let's go for the colder climate, and let's just see what happens. I told my kids, I had two kids, both my kids at the time, and my wife, and the deal that I made, I said, give it a year. And after 1 year, if anyone here votes that they're not enjoying Quebec, or they're not happy or anything like that, and one person in the family votes that it's not working out, we'll leave. So that was kind of the insurance policy and agreement I made with my family. And a year later, we did the vote. Everyone said we want to stay. So here we are, 6 years later. We're still in Quebec.
Quebec is very beautiful. I remember when I came out there, I was Canada is such a beautiful place, and the Canadians are very nice. I mean, I know in America we like to give them a lot of shit, which is, what I think it is. It's us basically wishing we were that nice. It's like this weird. They're just kind folks, and when we went to Quebec and went up there and got a chance to see you and the family, I was really blown away. It is a beautiful place, and you're right. It's like Europe. I mean, it's basically Europe in North America, and it's gorgeous. The food was great. I mean, granted, I was there when it was like the dead of winter, but it was still nice. I mean, I can't complain. I thought it was a gorgeous place. Reminded me of Utah, funny enough. It's so I would say that the way you describe the city and how you, I guess, how you got converted. They did the soft sell on you, bring you in the summer, great music, feel the vibe, amazing team. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like I gotta
Don't
hand it
show
to
me
those
the
guys.
cold.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like anything except the cold, but we'll get them
Yeah.
in. So okay, so you're with this team. It's in 6 years is a long time, and obviously you've spent all this time building games, doing things for other people. Obviously doing amazing things, and I'm curious now because at this moment in time, you must have been, just wondering and knowing your own capabilities, and this is really where I want to get into this. Why make the plunge to owning a studio? Like I had never known that you'd own a studio before, so I mean now it's kind of okay. Well, duh, he's already owned a company before, but tell me about like why now and what is this? What does that jumping in feel like?
I think part of it is, well, first off, ever since I got into the industry, and this is another kind of piece of advice I always give people, is do what you can to help others. Be humble, be kind, don't burn bridges. Sure, you're gonna have frustrating points. You're not always going to connect with people. People are gonna make you pissed. It's gonna happen. It's normal. It's human. But really, at the end of the day, if you're making games, you're making entertainment, and this is something that excites you, then you're lucky to be a part of it. Um, and so I kind of always had that that thinking since the very beginning. And over time, I've realized when I reflect and I think about some of the people that I have met, just really, really lucky. I feel very, very lucky because I admire their work. I'm you know, I'm there in the line with everyone else who's waiting for the day one release. And to have the opportunity to meet some of these people that I admire that inspired me, continually even to this day, it's very humbling. Um, so part of it is like I realize building these connections over a long period of time, um, but continuing still to kind of work for somebody, to work with somebody else's IPs. Um, you and I think especially as I got older, I realize, I know it's very cliche and you hear all the time, we only live once, but man, the older you get, this becomes even more clearer to me. Like when I was in my 20s, it's like, whatever. But now I'm just like, you know what? If I'm going to live once, what I care about right now is working with the people that I like working with and building what we want to build. Like, I don't want to be held back by the successes of the past. Uh, I have huge respect. I'm still lucky I've worked on some incredible franchises over the years, but I kind of want to go do my own thing, my way. And I'm not here to change a company to do what I want to do the way that I want to do it because that company is, they're successful for what they've done and how they do it. So at that point, I just have to respect, well, that company is that way, and I'm going to go do what I want to do my way. And and just go all in with it. So that's kind of what led me to walk away from the security, of working at a bigger company, uh, and go do our own thing. But it's liberating, and of course it's going to be terrifying, but I enjoy it. I'm embracing it.
Okay, so I gotta ask this question now that I've known that you'd actually gone out and been a part of something before. If you look at what would have been like what you were 20 years old the first time you were doing
Yeah.
this. Okay, so you're sitting here now and you're looking at the difference between now and when when you tried the first time. What do you think is the single biggest difference? I mean, it's like, what's the difference in that experience? If you don't mind sharing,
Oh,
because
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not.
yeah. No,
I mean, I really, yeah,
there's a
yeah, go
lot.
for it, man.
There's a lot. I think one thing is, I would always give a word of caution to people when they're starting up a company. If they're like, "Yeah, I'm just going to start up a company with my friends. This is what we want to do." It's when we did XI, it felt like that. We were just, hey, you know what? We're all a bunch of buddies. Let's start our own company. And not to say that it's not important that you have a connection with people, of course, especially as founders in a company, this is super critical. But and at least to make sure your ambitions and your reasons why you're starting a company are kind of aligned, or there's a bit of harmony between them. But yeah, that was one thing. Like I realized the second time around, it's like, yeah, there's people that I want to work with, but it's not that just because I want to work with them. It's also because I know they're the right fit for the company, and they're bringing something that is going to, what I believe is going to bring true success, uh, to the future projects of the company, and to the rest of the team. So uh, this is definitely something I had a very different approach to. You know, I've been, again, fortunate that I've been able to build teams in many different types of constraints in different countries, over my career, and for sure, I'm much more experienced now, to ask the better questions, the right questions. Whereas maybe in my 20s, I wasn't even aware. It's just like, oh no, that guy's cool. Let's just bring him in. She's great. Let's bring her on board. Uh, and now there's a lot more thought and care into who we're hiring, and why we're hiring, and when we hire them, and when we bring them on board.
So let's talk about the studio. You know, you got this going, and what's the philosophy? What are you guys trying to do out there? I mean, what is the reason for existence, as they say?
Yellow Brick was founded last year. It was initially kicked off actually by the CEO of the company and the chief creative officer of the company. So Toma and Mike got things going. I ended up joining not too long ago, just about 6 months ago in September is when I officially joined the company. I think the big thing with it is, and it's almost a common story if you kind of look at the people who are coming on board. We've been really fortunate to have we have some great talent on the team who've come from all different backgrounds and different studios of, whether it's Larian or Electronic Arts. It's been pretty awesome to see the people come on board. But we have a background of working on some very, you know some big franchises, a lot of AAA franchises, and when you work on a team of like 1,000 people, of course you can do incredible things. I used to always say, used to say at EA, the sun never sets at EA, or the sun never sets at Ubisoft, because you tend to have at least 100 people at every hour of the day working on what you're working on. So there's a tremendous amount of work going on, but um, you know, there you can kind of get lost in the numbers, and you start to question, like, is this the most efficient thing we could be doing and spending our time on? Is this the thing that players are going to care about the most? Um, and so we kind of wanted to reboot all that. We just wanted to get back to, okay, let's implement some constraints. Let's think about smaller teams. We saw what was going on in indie space, and the emergence of what people are calling the triple I space. Um, and it's funny. I think I'm trying to remember if it's episode 2 or episode 3 when you had Sean Layden on. Um, he was chatting about that in between space, like we're missing this in the games industry, and this is something that kind of excited us. Like, we have the pedigree and the background of building these kind of high quality AAA games, but it's like, can we focus a bit more, and deliver something that's going to be super compelling and interesting for our players? Can we build worlds that, even with a smaller team, can we do something with 40 people that's still just as impactful? And I think the answer is absolutely yes. I mean, we've seen people, small teams of 5 or 10 people do incredible games. I mean, Super Giant, Dodgeball. I think these guys come up, and I love their games and what they've done, and the identity they built for themselves. So yeah, we wanted to do that. That's what we wanted to do, and know that we can do it without. Um, yeah, this is actually something for me that what I've learned. connects to what I've learned so much in starting my own company. And with a small group of people, we're only like 16 people right now. Uh, we can make a decision and then, in the morning, execute it in the afternoon, and then see it on the screen by the end of the day. And just because we made that decision, it's done. There's no one else to influence this decision. So we're able to be so fast. Like what we can do, even though we're a smaller team of 16 and not a team of 1,000, we can move so fast. This is, I think, something that's super key that we're going to have to continue to take advantage of, given our size. Um, so so yeah, for us it was just about, is there a better way we can build the games and the experiences we want to build, and we want to do some new things. That can be tough in a setting where people are very comfortable with their past successes. So it's natural, human, to go, oh, let's just try to repeat that success and do it the way that we're used to doing it. Um, and that's great. That strategy can work, but we just wanted to go a different path.
So the thing is, you brought up what Sean had said on when we were speaking with him, and it's interesting because it's resonating with so many people. I think a lot of us veterans, a lot of us, I want to say old timers, but the ones of us that are getting long in the tooth, so to speak, basically are realizing that, you know what, yeah, sure, it's great to wield 1,000 resources, to have full global development, the sun never sets, yank, yank, whatever we want to do on that. But the reality is, we want to make games. And to the point of what you said, you can have coffee in the morning, make a decision, and by the evening see the result. Well, that's the agility and speed of small teams. That's the unit. And when you think about these spaces, this area where we almost forgot this. I mean, we used to call it the double A space, but I mean, let's forget these double A, triple A, quadruple A, triple I, acronym soups that no one cares about. Great games is what we're talking about. And the reality is that you can make great games with a tightly woven, amazing, talented group of people that are committed to the cause of making that great game. This has nothing to do with bodies and has everything to do with people's desire and willingness to do what it takes. So, you know, I want to talk about this for a second because you have been in areas and places where it was thousands of people and the coffee and the food flowed like water. Now that flows from you, sir. You're the man that has to provide those things while at the same time leading people forward. And there's a bit of romance. I'm sure there's people out in the audience being like, "Oh God, I can't wait to unshackle myself from my desk, or at this case, from my home." But let's just say that your home's not that bad. What is it, man? I mean, honestly, like you're feeling the vibe, you're feeling that thing. Where do we go with this? Because ultimately, it's yours now. It's your, of course, with your partners. You guys are all in it. But you know, do you ever find yourself in the mirror looking, being like, "Man, I am the man."
It's Yeah, I think the big thing for me, like the switch the mindset to on and getting back to that is, it's funny as a creative type, and building games and shipping games. A lot of times, and especially in a leadership role, we always have this thing like, "Oh, I just want the keys to the car. Just give me the keys to the car, and I will make anything. I'll make the impossible possible." But now it's funny. It's not even about the keys to the car for me anymore. It's like it's not. I no. I don't want. I'm not. I don't want the keys. I'm the car. Like now, it's about like finding the right driver. Are the right passengers in the car? Are we going in the right direction? It's bigger than actually what I thought. And yeah, I mean, you know, the obvious thing, of course, is, and the terrifying thing can be, well, when now I have a huge sense of responsibility to my team financially. Like, there's payroll. Like, people got to get paid. Things got to be set up for success, and I'm not just, when I look at my team members, I'm not just looking at my team members. I see they're there because of the support from their families, from their kids, and their wives, their husbands, boyfriends, girlfriends, and so it's just like there's a lot. This means a lot to me, that they're even a part of this ride. So yeah, there's a huge responsibility there, and but I've always said, you know, there are so many great ideas out there. Like great ideas are a lot of times. A lot of people I find so precious about. It's like, oh, I don't want to tell you this idea because I don't want you to steal it. To me, it's great ideas are a dime a dozen. Do you have a team to execute it? That's the difference. Great ideas don't make great teams. Great teams make great ideas. So I'm really focused on the team, um, and giving them the support that they need and the resources that they need. Trying to ask the hard question, making sure that they're on the right path, and then yeah, and then we'll hopefully in the end it works out and we build something incredible that players love. We'll see. We'll see.
Now, let me ask you, in the time that you've been doing this, your studio, have you had that moment where you're like thinking back in the 24 years to that one moment where you were like, man, that boss, that manager of mine, he didn't know what he was talking about. And then you're now thinking like, oh, actually, maybe he was right. Or a realization that the reason something went a certain way and at the time perhaps it didn't make any sense, but now as being responsible for groups of people and where things go, that you're like, okay, I get that a little bit better. Or I can now frame it a little bit more. Has that happened at all?
Yeah, yeah, it has happened a bit. I mean, I've um, I've had some incredible bosses that I try to if I mean if I can replicate 10% of what they've done, I'll feel like a life achievement. Um, so they set some really good examples that have really that I try to bring into the way that I work. Um, and then of course I've had those moments where it's super frustrating and like what is going on. And what I realize now, while I was super frustrated, it didn't make sense what he or she was doing. Um, at least now, looking back at it, I go, oh, the pressure that's on them. I can understand why they were so stressed about something, which made them have that kind of personality. So I'm probably a little bit more understandable now of it, even if I still disagree with it. Um, but I'm more aware of it now. Like being, back then when I wasn't even a manager, I just had to come in. I had my art director would give me a list and it would be like, hey, can you make these props? And I was like, sure, I'll make those props. And that's what I did. I just made props. I had a blast, and I just crank out my list, and I would get a new list, and that's all I had to continue to do. But when you have when you're managing people, there's a lot more that's going on. It's a whole different playing field. So yeah, huge. Definitely had becoming a manager for sure made me have more respect for my previous managers, even when we disagreed.
It's funny because I can imagine that sometimes it's a lot like that moment when we all had it when we're kids. We're like, when I grow up, I'm not going to be like my parents. I'm not going to do it this way. And of course, we all think we know, and then we know when we actually get there. And of course, there's something wrong with that because you don't know until until you're in the chair, right? To lead is one thing,
Yep.
to manage is another thing, but then to be the entrepreneur, to be an owner, to effectively be a part of something where you have all this pressure of the people's lives, their families, their futures, their hopes and their dreams with you, that creates a different type of circumstance. And I think it's always important for anyone out there listening and thinking about starting a company. I think it's really for them to understand that it's not about those hard skills as Jeff was talking about. It is those soft skills, and then those soft skills go times 1,000 when you're now the person to lead these people. And that is something that, I mean, it's a rare breed, man, and that's why my hat's off to you for starting up with your team and being with this group of people that you're on this new adventure. And I'm very happy for you because I think honestly, 24 years doing games, it's time to have your own thing, man. It really is. I think you guys, your people and your crew, you guys are going to be extremely successful. I mean, you got some super talent over there, which I think is important. Super talented group of people. But moreover, let me ask you: 6 years in Canada, 6 years in Quebec. How's your French?
Oh, let's see.
I know
D'abord,
you.
après, dans mon français est très, très mal encore. C'est très difficile pour moi de parler en français, mais j'ai trouvé un moyen de s'ouvrir avec mon accent américain. Par contre, mon écriture s'est beaucoup améliorée. Donc, à la fin, tout pouvait dire, j'étais. So there's a little of my friend.
I mean, I don't speak
But
French at all, baby. So, I mean, that's just it. So I'm like, well, okay,
it's
sounds right to
it,
me.
it anyone out there who speaks French, I have a huge respect for you because
Yeah,
mon français est très j'ai pas plate. It's dull. It's bad. It's super hard. I mean, I have, as much as I travel and I like picking up things, it's French is so difficult with the rules. But my kids are completely bilingual. My wife's French is, she's probably going to laugh at me when she hears this podcast. But yeah, they've done a tremendous job. I'm the one who's slacking. It's super, super.
No, it's funny. It's like this. Like I always, my wife speaks French as well, and so I'll play this for her. I'll be like, just judge on the scale of this, but I'll be like this. Like I'm just hoping I can find some nice poutine when I come back up there again. I mean,
Oh,
that's really,
absolutely. We got plenty of that.
yeah. I mean,
It was
that's
actually just poutine week here in Quebec,
yeah.
where it
There you
was
go,
awesome.
brother. So
Yeah.
that's a selling point right there. So honestly, like this is the thing. It's like with all the international travel and all the life you've lived up until now. I mean, it is a career that it's incredible. I have to say, just watching what you've done and the challenges you've gone through and how you built an amazing family, you have an amazing company now, you're on this new adventure. If you look at this and you were to summarize it here, looking back and then looking forward, what comes to mind for you? Like what is it? you know are you satisfied, or what is it more that you want to do?
I think the thing for me that I would love, like a huge accomplishment for me, is if when I retire, if there is a game that I built, like new IP that I built, that franchise is still running, and there's another team still building that IP, and I can play it. Like this is what I this to me would be like a kind of a dream come true. As a, I was a gamer before I was a developer, so uh, if I could work on a franchise that is still being developed on, uh, and worked on, even it's a sequel title, whatever, that would be incredible to have that kind of impact. So so yeah, that's something for me. I would love to see happen down the road. Uh, but until then, it's just you know building the team and building some new IP and seeing what happens. See if we get the traction.
I have no doubt that you guys will. And Jeff, I really appreciate you coming and sharing your story, sharing what you have going on. Why don't you give a shout out to your social tags? Where do we find you? How can we reach you? People are interested in joining the journey. They want to go venture down the yellow brick road. How can they do it, my
Yep.
friend?
Yeah. So yeah, come check out website is yellowbrickgames.ca. So you can get a little sneak peek of kind of what's our vision and mission, and see a little bit of the team. Uh, we're definitely hiring. We actually just posted for a new level design position we want to fill on the team, and there'll be a couple more positions this year. I think we'll probably hire maybe another 3 or 4 more people. I'd like us to be around 20 people before Christmas, and then next year for sure will be a bigger growth for us as we kind of get out of conception and move more towards a production. So yeah, that's that. As for me, I'm pretty active on Twitter, so feel free to follow or drop me a line. So that's just at Jeff_Skalski, and then yeah, and then of course one day when the world's a little bit normal and we're back at DDC or E3 or Gamescom, don't hesitate to come up and say hi.
Yeah. Jeff is like that. He's cool like that. That's the one thing I have to say, man. No, in the 20 years that we've known each other, because it's pretty much been that, I have to
Yeah,
say that one of the most consistent people I know is you. And more importantly, like, I am always amazed at the things you do and where you go, and I'm super proud to just have watched when and to see what you guys have been accomplished and what you've been doing. So, man, for all of us at VGRT, honestly, thanks for coming in and sharing your story. And you take care of yourself and can't wait to play the game, man. I mean, I can only imagine what this is. You keep me in suspense here. I'm like, what is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I bet it's awesome. I can only
Yeah.
imagine that.
Yeah, well, maybe that'll be another call another time. We'll chat a little bit more about the game,
Well,
but yeah, we have some time in front of us. But things are well underway. Well underway. In fact, got a review here in a few hours with the team to see what they've been up to this week. So, but they're doing some amazing stuff, and yeah, I'm excited for where it's going and what we're discovering.
that's awesome, Jeff. Well, you're always welcome to come back on the show. And for our listeners out there, this comes to a conclusion this week's episode of Video Games Real Talk with Alexander Fernandez and Stefan Baier. Big thank you to Jeff Skalski for coming out, or Skalski, let me put the skull in that, for coming out here and basically sharing his journey with us. You can find us wherever you download your fine podcasts, wherever that is. I'm not really sure where they are, but I just know they're there. But you can also visit us at our website at starvup.com, as well as hitting us up on Twitter, where I am at StarvUp and Stefan is at Nerdy Narrative. We're looking forward to seeing you guys next week, and thanks again for listening. And we are out.